gorgeous gal. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. I am so pumped today to be able to talk about Christian dating and 10 tips that I have for anyone who is in that dating scene and even people who are single. I think dating is actually one of the most important parts of a relationship, and it really sets that foundation. So I'm here by myself, but I have been talking to my boyfriend Michael, who we will be dating for 4 years in May, which is crazy. But I've been talking about having him on the YouTube channel, so please give this a like and comment below. Let him know that you're excited for that. We will hopefully do that soon when our schedules permit. So he has so much wisdom to share, and I love that he is willing to come on here. So let's dive into these tips that God has really just instilled in my life, things that I have learned, and just in hopes of encouraging you no matter where you're at in your relationship. So the reason why I wanted to do this today was because I'm in the phase and season of dating, and I think it's so important. Like I said, dating is such a foundation of a relationship. Yeah, it's not as glorious as marriage is, and God meant marriage to be the pinnacle, and that should be our destination point. So I'm just going to point that out first and foremost. If you're a Christian, I strongly encourage you to look at dating as a launching pad to marriage. When I was younger, I was always taught that dating was a spot where we could really cultivate a relationship to see if that person could potentially be our spouse. Not saying that whoever you date first is going to be your spouse, but that dating is a really good time of evaluation. One of my favorite pastors, Ben Stewart, I'll link him in his podcast down below. He talks a lot about how dating is a launching pad for marriage, and it's a time where you evaluate the person. So I wanted to encourage you, because dating is so important, whether you're dating right now or if you are in a season of singleness and you are looking to date. I want to encourage you that this is so important, and that there are some really practical tips that we can do to make dating really intentional, but also really fun, because dating, although it's really important, I think it's meant to also be really fun and lighthearted. So let's dive in. Get this hair to stay down. Before we dive in, I want to say something like super mind-blowing to set the tone for the rest of the video, and that is that there's actually nothing that directly talks about dating in the Bible, which is wild. Like, there's actually nothing specific in this book about dating, because dating has really come to be like a popular thing now, but like back in the old times, in the Old Testament times, in the Bible times, there wasn't like dating that we have now. It was a lot of like arranged marriages and stuff like that. But the encouragements that I'm going to talk about and the tips today I'm going to talk about come from principles in the Bible, and just things that God has taught us that we can implement in dating, so we can glorify Him in the process. So tip number one, and I think the most important tip, is to find someone to date with the same Jesus pursuit as you. If you are a Christian and you want to live out your life to its fullest for Jesus, and you want to glorify Him in everything, even dating, God's will for you in any friendship, any romantic relationship, especially because they are the most intimate, is to find someone who also believes in Jesus as well. Someone that is striving to follow Jesus with their whole lives. They're not going to be perfect. Heck, we're not perfect at all. But someone who is striving to make Jesus their greatest pursuit. There's a verse in 2 Corinthians 6:14 that says, "Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. For what partnership has righteousness with lawlessness?" So Paul is making a really bold statement here, but his truth that he's trying to convey is that Christians are called to be yoked with believers, other Christians. And yoked is kind of like an animal term, where there's like this long bar that farmers would attach one animal to another, and that way they're equal, they could work together and they could pursue the same task. And that's what Paul is saying here. He's saying if you want to live out God's full potential for your dating, and you want to make sure that your relationship with Him stays strong, find someone who also loves Jesus. It is such a hard thing. I used to be in a relationship with someone who didn't love Jesus at the time, and I love Jesus, but I thought that maybe, it would be okay, and he was a great guy, great morals, but we didn't agree on the most important things. He didn't agree on the standards I had for purity. He didn't believe that going to church was important. All of the most important things that connect me to who I am in Christ, he did not share. And since we didn't share them, we weren't going to see eye to eye on the most important things. Look for someone that is striving to make Jesus their greatest pursuit. They don't have to be the strongest person in the Lord, but someone who is striving to make Jesus their all in all, so that they can become a better believer. Tip number 2 is to date prayerfully. And I think this one is something that Michael and I have definitely not been perfect at. We are really great prayer warriors, but we definitely always need more prayer. I mean, we always as individuals need more prayer, and prayer is so important in like praying together and then also praying separately when you are in a dating relationship, because prayer is getting closer to God's heart. It's getting to know who he is. It's being able to listen to him. It's being able to ask things of him. And more than anything, prayer is a really awesome way to ask for God's guidance. And without God's guidance, it's really hard to know where to go, like with next steps in your dating relationship. Praying should never be overlooked. It is so important. Make that effort to pray and cultivate a prayerful life in your life as an individual, and also make the effort to pray together with your boyfriend and make sure that that communication is open. And prayer is also another really good way to keep your relationship centered around God. You hear all the time of keeping Christ as the center of your relationship, and I think prayer is one of the most important things. There's so many verses in the Bible that talks about us praying all the time, praying without ceasing, and that even includes dating relationships because it's a part of your life. So make sure you're cultivating a prayer life in your own life, talking to God, and then also talking to him together, because dating relationships, no matter how sure you are that this person is going to be your husband, no matter all these things that are confirmed with you, we always need God's guidance, even in the simplest things. So date prayerfully. Tip number 3 is to date with purity. And I know, and this is another one that you're like, okay, Tara, I've heard this over and over again, but I can never stress this one enough. When I mean date with purity, I mean with a pure heart and a pure mind, and then also a pure body. And this is just striving to really believe that God's best for our purity is the best for us. It's really believing that God set up marriage to be the only time where sex is really appropriate, and just believing that he has our best in mind for that. Dating with purity is not only like keeping your body from doing inappropriate things when you're not supposed to before marriage, it's also keeping your mind and your heart pure, because it's so easy to let your mind wander. If you're trying so hard to not get closer intimately with your boyfriend before you get married, to talk about boundaries right away. Michael and I definitely have not been perfect, but I remember we definitely talked about boundaries right away when we first started officially dating, and we made sure we talked about like, okay, here are our expectations. We both did not want to sleep together before we got married. We vowed that that was not what we wanted, and it's really good, again, to have the same mind, the same pursuit. If you have someone that you're dating that wants to be able to sleep with you before marriage, then that is not being yoked together equally. So you got to get on the same page and make sure that, like, hey, you don't want to kiss before marriage, or you don't want to kiss before a certain amount of time, or there's fears you have, talk about those right away. It's going to be weird, but know that it's going to save you from some difficult conversations and confrontations down the road. When you love someone so much, there's boundaries that will be crossed, but if you set the boundaries, knowing in your heart and convinced in your heart that Jesus' best is for you, it's going to make that a lot easier. And then being on the same page, talk about it right away. If you get intimate with someone that you love and you have sex before marriage, it's so proven just through studies, and then even just if you talk to people who have had sex before they have been married, sex clouds your thinking, it clouds your judgment. It creates a bond that is not supposed to be created until marriage. God isn't saying, not to have sex before marriage because he wants to punish us and rob us of pleasure. No, he's saying that, like, I want to protect you from the hurt you could potentially have, so I want to save it for marriage. It's one of the biggest forms of expression of love that, again, is only met in that covenant of marriage. So talk about boundaries early on, have regular conversations, maybe even have like a check-in every month and be like, okay, how we're doing, and then as you go along, just remember to keep also your mind pure, because the mind is really easy to wander and think about things and fantasize. So keep your mind and your heart and your whole body pure. Center your dating around that. Tip number 4 is actually, I feel like I should have said it earlier, but we're gonna talk about it now. And it's just to really build a foundation on friendship first. And before you really start dating, or before you start seriously dating, I mean, this isn't like super mandatory, but it's something that I've found to be so profitable, is to build it on friendship first. A lot of times there was a relationship I had in high school, and I really didn't get to know that person as a friend first. I really didn't get to know them, just who they were, and just casually having conversations. I didn't really get that chance because I immediately went into thinking, I could date them. So I think it's so important, if you can, to build a foundation of friendship first, meaning get to know them purely just to be a friend to them and to love them and to see them and to see them as God sees them and created them. Build a foundation that's very casual and keep your intention set on just getting to know who that person is. Because Michael and I, my parents were always like, you guys dated way before you actually were dating. So, I mean, it kind of was that gray area where we're like, okay, we like each other, but we were just really getting to know each other. My parents recommended that we just spend a couple months before we officially date and just keep getting to know each other, get to know each other's families. So I felt like that was a really good foundation of friendship because it wasn't just feelings and physical emotions. It was actually getting to know who he was so that I could see, okay, there's compatibility here, and I can see myself being his friend first. Tip number 5 for you would be one that I'm struggling with the most, but I think is the most important, one of the most important, and it is to hold your dating timetable with an open hand. I talked about this, I think, on a blog post actually, about having a posture of open hands to the Lord. And it's just a attitude of being like, okay, God, I am trusting and I am surrendering my timetable, my plans for my life, my plans for this dating relationship to you. Because I've had so many expectations over the last years of dating where I thought that, my timetable was the one that was going to be best. And I got confused and really disappointed and bitter when God didn't let that happen. And so I would encourage you to go into a dating relationship with an open hand posture, holding your timetable up to him and saying, God, I have these expectations for, what I want in a relationship. And maybe you're falling in love with this guy sooner than you thought, but you need to be really diligent. And that's where praying comes in so beautifully, is that when we are in constant communication with the Lord, we can trust him with our timeline and how he wants this dating process to go. It really brings a lot of peace and freedom knowing that he has every single point of your dating relationship in his hands. Whether you end up with this guy and you end up getting married, or whether you don't, God will still have you in his hand. Open that up to him so that you can free yourself of the anxieties. You can just free yourself to live each day by day and date and follow God, but not worry about your timetable, because that just leaves a lot of disappointment and bitterness and confusion when our way doesn't happen. And surrender your timetable to him, not because you're giving up anything, but actually because he's giving you the best timetable. He's giving you the best dating future when you surrender that to him. The next tip is to invite your loved ones and your family into your relationship. So Michael and I, my boyfriend and I, started dating when we were 17. We were just going into senior year of high school. And so it was, we were fairly younger than some people start dating. I mean, a lot of people do date in high school, but for us, it was pretty young. And so we had our family really involved. They wanted to be really involved, so we really appreciated that. But even as I'm older, we both turned 21, and we have realized how stinking important it is to have your family and your loved ones, your friends, involved in your dating relationships to some capacity, meaning have that door open so that they can speak wisdom into your life, that you can commune with them, fellowship, encourage each other. My parents, I'm so blessed to have such a beautiful relationship with my parents. And if you don't, I feel for you. I know that it's not always that way with parents, but if you have even just an aunt or uncle or friends that you feel comfortable with, invite them into your relationship, because it builds trust. They have so much more wisdom to offer us than we really realize. And God means for us to be in community. People with stronger faith, again, God has given everyone a different portion of faith. It's not that someone's is better than another's, but they have something in their faith that they can teach you. And if it can help your dating relationship be more centered around Christ, then accept that in. The next tip is kind of on the lines of like how to deal with disagreements and arguments, and it is to always take your frustrations and your feelings to God first and then to your boyfriend. So of course we want to take them to God first because he is all-knowing, he is our Father, he is loving, he has all the answers within him, because he's ultimately going to direct you and your boyfriend to figure out that situation and grow through it. And then secondly, take it to your boyfriend, the person that you're actually dealing with things with. Don't take it to a friend, don't take it to a family member. I mean, it's great to take them to those people that you love, but you can get in a really sticky situation if instead of going to your boyfriend, the person that you are having this conversation with, you can get in a sticky situation if you take it to someone that's not involved, and we can easily start saying bad things or not giving them the full picture. And so it's really important to have that open communication where you feel comfortable enough to talk to that person about your frustrations. Always take your frustrations to God first and then take it to the person you are in relationship with, because at the end of the day, you are in a relationship with that person and that person alone. And that's going to really set you up, especially if you are going to be marrying this person potentially. Like, you can't run away from that, especially when you're in marriage. I mean, you can physically run away from it, but I mean, it's going to be there, and you are in a more of a covenant. And dating is a really good time to prepare yourself and like build those skills of like communication and respect, because when you get to marriage, things are just going to amplify. So God first, and then the person that you were dealing with stuff, your boyfriend, take it to them. Just cut out any opportunity for there to be any lying, misrepresentation. One of the last tips is to always keep in the back of your mind that dating is about evaluation. Again, one of my favorite pastors just says that singleness is about devotion, dating is about evaluation. Thinking about dating as evaluation really like encourages me to keep dating intentional, to realize that, okay, dating is a time, if I want to date the way God wants me to, dating is a time where I can be very intentional about looking at our relationship and saying, okay, is this person helping me become more like Christ? Am I helping them become more like Christ? And can I see us being married under the holy and precious covenant of Jesus? Can I see us being married? And so that's an important thing. And again, like I said earlier, we want to keep dating lighthearted and fun, and not always so laser focused on the future and plans, but also like we have to be on high alert. The enemy hates when two people come together that love Jesus, because it's a double threat. So we have to be on high alert and always remember, hey, if I want to be different than the world, if I want to be different than this hookup culture, I need to be evaluating the relationships I have, and then be open to, if God has you, not be with this person. Evaluating, God can evaluate in a million different ways. Dating is a precious time to start thinking about, okay, how is this person growing me? How am I growing them? Like, more than anything, how are we going to grow together? Is this a person that I can see myself loving for the rest of my life, serving God with for the rest of my life? It is a really important thing. So remember that dating is about evaluation. One of the last ones that, again, seems kind of cliche, but is so powerful, and that I have been learning over the past couple months, is to date graciously and kindly. It seems like, oh, Tara, like, yeah, I know I should be gracious and kind, but we so overlook so much how important it is to be gracious. Be gracious with your words. Be very kind with how you speak to each other. It's a human being that you love. Remember that your words have weight, and that they have so much impact. When someone that you love speaks harshly to you or disrespects you, it can really, really mess you up. Remember to be gracious with your words. Be gracious with your time. Let them go hang out with friends and be with family. Speak kind words over to one another. It is so, so important. My parents will always hammer this into me, is women want love and men want respect. I mean, men want love and women want respect too, but at the end of the day, men are craving respect. So if I can encourage you ladies to do anything, if you're single or even if you're dating, to really start cultivating that respect for men in your life and your boyfriend, your husband. Respect them in the choices that they make. If they are following Jesus Christ with their life, you can respect them and trust that God is going to lead you both in the way that He wants. You might not always understand it. I've been in that spot where I'm like, okay, I don't really know, how He's leading us, but I can trust that He is walking with God. And then if I know He's walking with God, I can respect Him. So respect Him in the way that you speak to Him, in the way that you pray for Him, the way that you love Him, the way that you treat Him around other people. I hope that this video helped you think about dating as evaluation, and helped you really like armor up with some practical tips for dating intentionally, keeping God at the center. I am just someone that is trying to keep God at the center of her relationship, run together with Michael so that we can serve God the best. So if you have any comments and tips for us, any encouragements that you can add, please comment below. I would love to hear. Again, give this a like, and please subscribe, because I love doing faith-based encouragement videos, beauty videos, just anything with life. I would so appreciate you joining, and hopefully soon we will do one with Michael. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in our next video.